Well, Vice President Hu, thank you very much for your kind and generous remarks. Thank you for welcoming me and my wife Laura here. I see she's keeping pretty good company with the Secretary of State, Colin Powell. Good to see you, Mr. Secretary. And I see my National Security Advisor, Ms. Condoleezza Rice, who at one time was the provost of Stanford University, so she's comfortable on university campuses such as this. Thank you for being here, Connie. I'm so grateful for the hospitality and honored for the reception at one of China's and the world's great universities. This university was founded, interestingly enough, with the support of my country, to further ties between our two nations. I know how important this place is to your Vice President. He not only received his degree here, but more importantly, he met his gracious wife here. And I want to thank the students for giving me the chance to meet with you, the chance to talk a little bit about my country and answer some of your questions. The standards and reputation of this university are known around the world, and I know what an achievement it is to be here. So congratulations. I don't know if you know this or not, but my wife and I have two daughters who are in college just like you. One goes to the University of Texas, one goes to Yale. They're twins. And we are proud of our daughters, just like I'm sure your parents are proud of you. My visit to China comes on an important anniversary, as the Vice President mentioned. 30 years ago this week, an American president arrived in China on a trip designed to end decades of estrangement and confront centuries of suspicion. President Richard Nixon showed the world that two vastly different governments could meet on the grounds of common interest in the spirit of mutual respect. As they left the airport that day, Premier Zhou Enlai said this to President Nixon: "Your handshake came over the vastest ocean in the world. 25 years of no communication. During the 30 years since, America and China have exchanged many handshakes of friendship and commerce. And as we have had more contact with each other, the citizens of both countries have gradually learned more about each other, and that's important. Once America knew China only by its history as a great and enduring civilization. Today we see a China that is still defined by noble traditions of family, scholarship, and honor. And we see a China that is becoming one of the most dynamic and creative societies in the world, as demonstrated by the knowledge and potential right here in this room. China is on a rising path, and America welcomes the emergence of a strong and peaceful and prosperous China. As America learns more about China, I am concerned that the Chinese people do not always see a clear picture of my country. This happens for many reasons, and some of them are our own making. Our movies and television shows often do not portray the values of the real America I know. Our successful businesses show a strength of American commerce. But our spirit, community spirit, and contributions to each other are not always visible as monetary success. Some of the erroneous pictures of America are painted by others. My friend, the ambassador to China, tells me some Chinese textbooks talk of Americans of bullying the weak and repressing the poor. Another Chinese textbook published just last year teaches that special agents of the FBI are used to repress the working people. Now, neither of these is true. And while the words may be leftovers from a previous era, they are misleading and they're harmful. In fact, Americans feel a special responsibility for the weak and the poor. Our government spends billions of dollars to provide health care and food and housing for those who cannot help themselves. And even more important, many of our citizens contribute their own money and time to help those in need. American compassion also stretches way beyond our borders. We're the #1 provider of humanitarian aid to people in need throughout the world. And as for the men and women of the FBI and law enforcement, they're working people. They themselves are working people who devote their lives to fighting crime and corruption. My country certainly has its share of problems, no question about that. And we have our faults. Like most nations, we're on a long journey toward achieving our own ideals of equality and justice. Yet there's a reason our nation shines as a beacon of hope and opportunity. A reason many throughout the world dream of coming to America. It's because we're a free nation, where men and women have the opportunity to achieve their dreams. No matter your background or your circumstance of birth, in America you can get a good education, you can start your own business, you can raise a family, you can worship freely, and help elect the leaders of your community and your country. You can support the policies of our government, or you're free to openly disagree with them. Those who fear freedom sometimes argue it could lead to chaos, but it does not. Because freedom means more than every man for himself. Liberty gives our citizens many rights, yet expects them to exercise important responsibilities. Our liberty is given direction and purpose by moral character, shaped in strong families, strong communities, strong religious institutions, and overseen by a strong and fair legal system. My country's greatest symbol to the world is the Statue of Liberty, and it was designed by special care. I don't know if you've ever seen the Statue of Liberty, but if you look closely, she's holding not one object, but two. In the one hand is a familiar torch we call the Light of Liberty, and in the other hand is a book of law. We're a nation of laws. Our courts are honest and they are independent. The president, me, I can't tell the courts how to rule, and neither can any other member of the executive or legislative branch of government. Under our law, everyone stands equal. No one is above the law, and no one is beneath it. All political power in America is limited, and it is temporary, and only given by the free vote of the people. We have a Constitution, now 2 centuries old, which limits and balances the power of the 3 branches of our government: the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch, of which I'm a part. Many of the values that guide our life in America are first shaped in our families, just as they are in your country. American moms and dads love their children and work hard and sacrifice for them because we believe life can always be better for the next generation. In our families, we find love and learn responsibility and character. And many Americans voluntarily devote part of their lives to serving other people. An amazing number, nearly half of all adults in America, volunteer time every week to make their communities better by mentoring children, or by visiting the sick, or caring for the elderly, or helping with thousands of other needs and causes. This is one of the great strengths of my country. People take responsibility for helping others without being told, motivated by their good hearts, and often by their faith. America is a nation guided by faith. Someone once called us a nation with the soul of a church. This may interest you. 95% of Americans say they believe in God, and I'm one of them. When I met President Jiang Zemin in Shanghai a few months ago, I had the honor of sharing with him how faith changed my life and how faith contributes to the life of my country. Faith points to a moral law beyond man's law and calls us to duties higher than material gain. Freedom of religion is not something to be feared. It's to be welcomed. Because faith gives us a moral core and teaches us to hold ourselves to high standards, to love and to serve others, and to live responsible lives. If you travel across America, and I hope you do someday if you haven't been there, you will find people of many different ethnic backgrounds and many different faiths. We're a varied nation. We're a home to 2.3 million Americans of Chinese ancestry who can be found working in the offices of our corporations or in the cabinet of the President of the United States or skating for the America Olympic team. Every immigrant, by taking an oath of allegiance to our country, becomes just as an American as the President. America shows that a society can be vast and it can be varied, yet still one country, commanding the allegiance and love of its people. And all these qualities of America were widely on display on a single day, September the 11th. The day when terrorists, murderers, attacked my nation. American policemen and firefighters, by the hundreds, ran into burning towers in desperation to save their fellow citizens. Volunteers came from everywhere to help with rescue efforts. Americans donated blood and gave money to help the families of victims. America at prayer services all over our country. And people raised flags to show their pride and unity. And you need to know none of this was ordered by the government. It happened spontaneously by the initiative of free people. Life in America shows that liberty paired with law is not to be feared. In a free society, diversity is not disorder. Debate is not strife. And dissent is not revolution. A free society trusts its citizens to seek greatness in themselves and their country. It was my honor to visit China in 1975. Some of you weren't even born then. It shows how old I am. And a lot has changed in your country since then. China's made amazing progress in openness, in enterprise, and economic freedom. And this progress previews China's great potential. China has joined the World Trade Organization. And as you live up to its obligations, they inevitably will bring changes to China's legal system. A modern China will have a consistent rule of law to govern commerce and secure the rights of its people. The new China your generation is building will need the profound wisdom of your traditions. The lure of materialism challenges society in our country and in many successful countries. Your ancient ethic of personal and family responsibility will serve you well. Behind China's economic success today are talented, brilliant, and energetic people. In the near future, those same men and women will play a full and active role in your government. This university is not simply turning out specialists. It is preparing citizens. And citizens are not spectators in the affairs of their country. They are participants in its future. Change is coming. China is already having secret ballot and competitive elections at the local level. Nearly 20 years ago, a great Chinese leader, Deng Xiaoping, said this. I want you to hear his words. He said that China would eventually expand democratic elections all the way to the national level. I look forward to that day. Tens of millions of Chinese today are relearning Buddhist, Taoist, and local religious traditions, or practicing Christianity, Islam, and other faiths. Regardless of where or how these believers worship, they're no threat to public order. In fact, they make good citizens. For centuries, this country has had a tradition of religious tolerance. My prayer is that all persecution will end so that all in China are free to gather and worship as they wish. All these changes will lead to a stronger, more confident China. A China that can astonish and enrich the world. A China that your generation will help create. This is one of the most exciting times in the history of your country. A time when even the grandest hopes seem within your reach. My nation offers you our respect and our friendship. 6 years from now, athletes from America and around the world will come to your country for the Olympic Games. And I'm confident they will find a China that is becoming a Daogua, a leading nation, at peace with its people and at peace with the world. Thank you for letting me come.
Mr. President, yesterday I watched the press conference made by you and President Jiang Zemin. That at the conference you didn't clearly answer a question which is concerned by almost everybody. It's whether the TMD system will cover Taiwan. And what's more, whenever you talk about the Taiwan issue, you always use the phrase just like a peaceful settlement. You never use the phrase peaceful reunification. What's the difference and why? Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Very good question.
非常好的问题。
First of all, I want to compliment you on your English.
首先呢，我要赞赏你的英文非常好。
The first thing that is important on the Taiwan issue is that my government hopes there is a peaceful, as I said, a dialogue. That there is a settlement to this issue. But it must be done in a peaceful way. That's why I keep emphasizing peaceful. And by the way, peaceful is a word intended for both parties. That neither party should provoke. That, oh, you go ahead, I'm sorry.
First of all, sorry.
She's correcting my English.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. 讲到台湾问题呢，很重要的一点就是美国的政府呢，在讲到如何和平解决台湾问题的时候，总是说到和平对话。我们强调和平这个字，我们指的是双方都以和平的方式来解决，任何一方都不可以进行任何挑衅的行为。
We've had many discussions with your leaders, and I've reiterated support for the One China policy. It's been my government's policy for a long period of time, and I haven't changed it.
我跟中国的领导人经过多次的谈话，每一次我都强调我们是支持一个中国的政策，而且这是我们长期一贯的政策，到目前为止没有改变。
I also, in your question about missile defenses, have made it clear that our nation will develop defenses to help our friends, our allies, and others around the world protect ourselves from rogue nations that are trying to develop weapons of mass destruction. To me, that is essential for peace in the world. We have yet to develop a system. And therefore, that's exactly what I said yesterday, and it's the truth. But we're in the process of seeing if we can't develop a system. And I think it'll bring more stability to the world than less.
至于有关导弹防御系统呢，我已经说得非常清楚，这是一个防御性的系统，是要帮助我们的盟友和其他一些国家来保护他们免受这个无赖国家的攻击，而这些国家呢，他们是希望能够发展大规模杀伤性武器的。那我想在这一点呢，制定这个系统呢，对和平来说是有必要的，这也是我昨天非常清楚说明的，这是事实。那目前呢，我们正在发展导弹防御系统的过程中，目前还不知道它可行不可行，但是我觉得呢，对全世界的和平会带来贡献。
And let me just say one general comment. It's very important for you to know, and it's also important for the people of my country to know that my administration is committed to peacefully resolving issues around the world. We want the issues resolved in a peaceful manner. And we've got a lot of issues that we deal with. We're dealing in the Middle East. And if you follow the news, it's a very dangerous period of time there. We're working hard to bring peaceful resolution there. We're working hard to bring a peaceful resolution to Kashmir, which is important for China. And I recently went to Korea, and I made it very clear that we want to resolve the issues on the Korean Peninsula in a peaceful way.
那还有一点呢，就是我觉得对中国人来说，还有对美国人来说，都是必要知道的。就是美国政府呢，希望能够以和平的方式解决发生在全世界的许多问题。那因为美国现在处理的问题非常多，像中东的问题，你们从新闻上可能已经知道了，这是一个非常危险的时代，所以我们正在努力的致力于和平。那我们也希望呢，能够克什米尔的问题也能够和平解决，因为这对中国是非常重要的。那我来中国之前呢，我也到了韩 韩国为在那里明确的表明了，我们需要以和平的方式解决朝鲜半岛的问题。
Another question, please? Yes,
还有
ma'am.
其他的问
Please.
题吗？总统先生您好，我是清华大学传播系的学生。很遗憾，刚才您的回答还是没有给我们一个清晰的回答，为什么总用和平解决而不用和平统一？那么我的问题是3天前您在日本访问的时候，在日本议会发表演讲时说，美国将牢记对台湾的承诺。那我想问总统先生这样一个问题：美国是否还牢记他对13亿中国人民的承诺呢？那就是遵守中美3个联合公报和3部政策。Well, I will repeat my question in English.
Thank you.
It's a pity you still haven't given us a clear question about whether you always use the peaceful settlement, but you have never said peaceful reunification. It's a pity.
We're back on Taiwan again.
又回到台湾的问题。
Let me-
Because this
Go
is
ahead.
a question our Chinese people are extremely concerned about.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, 我知道。Three days ago, during your speech in the Japanese Parliament, you
Yes.
said the United States will still remember its commitment to Taiwan.
Right.
But my question is, does the U.S. still remember its commitment to 1,300,000,000 Chinese people?
Well,
Remember,
thank you.
abiding by the 3 joint communiques and 3 notes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said, this seems to be a topic on people's mind, obviously.
感谢您分
I,
享台湾问题是大家都一直关心的问题。
I can't say it any more clearly that I am anxious that there be a peaceful resolution, and that's going to require both parties to come to a solution. And that's what I mean by peaceful dialogue. And it is. I hope it happens in my lifetime, and I hope it happens in yours. It'll be a important milestone. And secondly, when my country makes an agreement, we stick with it. And there is called the Taiwan Relations Act, and I honor that act, which says we will help Taiwan defend herself if provoked. But we've also sent the same message that there should be no provocation by either party for a peaceful dialogue. Next question.
我想呢，就着
Yes, ma'am.
台湾的问题呢，我想我已经再明确不过了，就是我急切的盼望希望能够台湾的和平得到和谐。那这就是我为什么说到需要和平对话的原因。那我也希望呢，这件事情呢，能够在我有生之年或是您有生之年能够成就，这将是一个重要的里程碑。那我想呢，美国政府是这样的，我们一旦签署了什么协议，或是我们进入了什么协议，我们都会遵守这个协议。我们在美国有与台湾关系法，我们曾经承诺要保台湾，但是呢，我们已经明确说明，任何一方都不能有挑衅的行为。
Actually, I said yes, ma'am. But
那是你的，李先生。总统先生您好，我是清华大学经管学院的学生。那么，欢迎您这次来访，感谢您刚才精彩的演讲。那么，我们可以预见到中美两国的学术文化交流活动，前景是非常广阔的。那么，刚才在您精彩的演讲当中，我也看得出来，您对我们清华大学给予了很高的评价。那么现在我的问题就是，如果将来您的2个宝贝女儿有机会，那么继续深造的话，您愿意让您的女儿来我们清华大学吗？Now, please let me repeat my question in English. Mr. President, I'm a student coming from the School of Economics and Management in Tsinghua University. As we can see, China and the United States have a bright future in scientific and cultural exchanges. Now, just now, you have made warm remarks about our universities. So, my question is, if possible, will you be happy to encourage your daughters to study in our university? Thank you.
I'm afraid they don't listen to me anymore.
但是他们已经不再听话了。
If you know what I mean.
我想你知道我的意思吧？
Let me. First of all, I hope they do come here.
首先，我希望他们能够来
It
听
is an
到，
amazing country.
因为这是一个非常奇妙的国家。
You know, as I said, I was here in 1975. It is hard for me to describe the difference. It is amazing transformation. I first saw that in Shanghai earlier this fall, or last fall.
我第一次来中国的时候是1975年，跟现在相比呢，我实在很难用言语来形容这个中国发生的翻天覆地的变化。那我第一次来就是我当了总统以后来中国呢，第一次是到上海。
They would benefit from coming here, as would a lot of other United States students.
我想他们跟很多美国的学生一样，他们都希望能够到中国来看一看。
I think our student exchange program is very important.
所以呢，我觉得我们两国之间呢进行学术或是学生交流是非常重要的。
I think our nation must be welcoming to Chinese students who would like to go study in America.
而且我也觉得美国呢应该欢迎中国的学生呢到美国去学习。
I think that would benefit the students, but as importantly, would benefit American students.
因为我觉得这样子对中国的学生、留学生来说是有好处的，对美国的学生本身呢也是非常有好处的。
It's so important for people to realize in both our countries that we're dealing with human beings that have got desires and loves and frustrations.
我想很重要的一点就是我们必须了解，我们两国的人，您必须了解呢，就是我们都是人，那我们都是有就是七情六欲的，我们都是有我们的烦恼的，也有我们的快乐的。
Even old citizens like me and the Vice President.
I'm sorry, sir.
Even older citizens like me and the Vice President.
连这个年纪比较大的公民，像这个我们的这个副总统也是一样。
Can benefit by spending time getting to know each other.
因为我们如果一起交流，我们一起呢有时间在一起的话，我们能够双方更加的了解，这是对我们有利的。
Obviously, there are some issues in our relationship that we don't see 100%.
所以，但是当你能够跟一个人呢，能够相互更多的理解、更多的了解的话呢，您可能就着这些分歧、这些问题呢，你能够进行更好的讨论。
We're human beings first and foremost.
毕竟我们是人，是有血有肉的人。
There are just some important characteristics that are real. And you mentioned, I talked about my families in my speech. Family is just such an important, integral part of any society. And China has got a grand history of honoring family. That is an important tradition, an important part of your culture. And I hope my country as well is known for a strong tradition of family. That's a concept that's not owned by a particular country. It is universal. And when students get to know each other, they learn the universality of many values, and that's going to be important for peace in the world.
那我觉得非常重要的就是一点，我们认识我们毕竟是血肉之躯，我们毕竟是人，所以呢，有一些事情呢，像我提到我的家人在演讲中呢，我觉得因为家庭呢是在任何社会中呢不可分割，也是非常重要的一个组成部分，所以呢，我知道中国在历史上、文化上呢都有这个非常敬老尊贤或者是尊重家人的这种传统，所以我希望美国呢也会有这样的传统。这个概念呢不只是给某一个国家的，这是一种全球性的概念。所以我想，当两国的学生聚在一起，一起学习的时候，我们能够更加理解对方的价值观。我想这样子呢，就能贡献于世界的和平。
Another question? Yes, ma'am. Yep.
周能先生您好，我是清华大学传播系的学生。那么在去年圣诞节前，您的弟弟 Neil Bush 曾经访问过我们清华大学。那么当时他来的时候就讲，在美国呢有很多的人，特别是政界，对我们中国有很多的误解。那刚才我们的副主席胡锦涛主席还有您都有提到说，两国都想促进两国之间的关系健康的发展，还有人员之间的交流。那么我在想，我的问题是，作为美国总统，您打算采取哪些具体的措施，就是促进我们人员之间的在各个层面上的交流？Please let me translate my question in English.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I'm a student from Center for International Communication Studies. Well, your younger brother Neil Bush visited our university just before last Christmas, and he mentioned that there are many Americans, especially politicians, have a lot of misunderstandings about China. So just as our Vice President Hu Jintao and you mentioned, you all want to make efforts to promote the Sino-American relationship to go ahead smoothly. So my question is, being the President of the United States, will it take some action to promote the contacts and exchanges between the two countries, between the peoples at all different levels? Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a very good question.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, my trip here and my discussion here helps promote.
首先呢，我想我来到中国访问，来到清华大学就是回答你的问题。
People in my country are paying attention to my visit here.
因为美国人现在非常注意我访华的整个行程。
And it should interest you that I was here in the fall and I'm back here again in the winter, twice in a very brief period of time. And that should say something about the importance of our relationships.
那我想你应该很有兴趣的知道，就是我上回呢是先到上海，然后在很短的时间内，我又在冬天呢又来到了北京，一连在很短的时间内2次访华。我想这一点可以向您说明我如何看重我们双边的关系。
It's important for our political leaders to come to China, and I know many have, and more ought to come.
那我觉得很重要的就是让美国的政界的领导人呢能够来访问中国。我想很多已经来过，但是还有许多还要来。
It's important for the rhetoric, and we describe what we've seen to be accurate and real. And when I go back home, I describe a great nation. A nation that's not only got a great history, but a unbelievably exciting future.
那我想呢，能够来看一看呢，我们回去向他们形容中国的时候呢，会比较准确。那像我回到美国之后呢，我会告诉他们，中国是一个伟大的国家，有非常悠久的优秀历史，但是不止如此，还有非常美好的未来。
Many people in my country are very interested in China, and many come, as you know, they come to not only see the beautiful countryside, but they come to learn more about the culture and the people. And we got to continue to encourage travel between both our countries.
那很多美国人对中国非常感兴趣，不只是来看中国的这个非常漂亮的中国，而且要对中国人和中国的文化更进一步的了解。我想我们2个国家都必须继续的鼓励呢，双边的人民呢相互的访问。
But you know what's going to really make a significant difference in the world understanding of your great country is the Olympics.
我想呢，可以在很大的程度上呢，改变全世界对中国的印象的一个机会呢，就是当你们这个举办奥林匹克运动会的时候。
It's going to be a fantastic opportunity.
这将是一个太好的机会了。
It is. It's going to be a chance for people from all over the world not only to come and visit and to stay in hotels and to see the modernization that's taking place, but everybody in the world is going to watch it on TV too, and it's going to be a great opportunity. And I think, and that's one of the reasons why I think it made sense to give Beijing the Olympics in 2008.
所以呢，我觉得呢，因为到时候呢，全世界的人都要来到中国，他们可以不只是来参加看这个运动会，而且可以看到中国现代化的发展。不只是来的人可以看见，全世界通过电视传播呢都能够看到。所以我觉得呢，当时候呢，能够颁布给让北京呢得到主办2008年奥运会的主办权呢，我觉得是有道理的。
Yes, sir. Go ahead and yell it. There you go.
总统先生，您1975年来过中国，到现在20多年过去了，您刚才也提到中国发生了很多变化，那您有没有发现除了经济之外的中国社会的一些进步？Now please let me repeat it in English.
Thank you.
Mr. President, you have been to China in 1975, and you have mentioned just now there are a lot of changes in the Chinese society. And besides the progress in economy, have you noticed any other social progress? in the Chinese society.
Well, I appreciate that. Let me tell you my most notable, the thing I've noticed the most, and it has to do with the economy, but it also has to do with a different attitude toward the people.
我想呢，我来中国呢，发现最凸显的一个现象呢，当然是稍微跟经济有关的，但是总的来说呢，就是整个人民这种态度的改变。
In 1975, everybody wore the same clothes.
因为在1979年的时候呢，我来的时候，每个人的这个服装都是一样的。
Now, people pick their own clothes.
现在呢，你们高兴穿什么就穿什么。
Just look here on the front row. Everybody's dressed differently.
你看你们第一排的，全都是不一样的这个服装。
Because you thought this is what you wanted.
因为你觉得这是我喜欢的，我要这么穿。
You made the decision to wear a beautiful red sweater.
当你要套上这个漂亮的羊毛上衣的时候，你说这是我做的决定。
And when you made that decision, somebody made it.
当你主动的做出这样决定的时候，别的人看了，他们也要做出自己的决定。
In other words, the person, the individual, the demand for a product influences the production as opposed to the other way around.
因此呢，对一个产品的需求呢，就影响了整个的生产，所以而不是不是由生产来影响产品的需求。
Recognizing the desires of the individual in the marketplace.
如果你能够认识到在市场上的每一个人的这种需要
is part of a free society.
那这个就是自由社会的一个现象之一。
It is a part of the definition of freedom.
这就是我们解释自由的其中一个意义。
And I see that as the most significant change that I can see besides the new buildings and all the construction. But the most important thing is the human dimension of freeing people to decide for themselves.
所以呢，我来到这里，我看见的不只是高楼大厦，我觉得最明显的就是每个人现在可以自由的做出他自己的选择了。
And with that freedom comes other freedoms.
那有了做个人这种选择的这种自由呢，你就可以有其他的自由，你可以自由的做其他的事情。
So you can understand why the transformation from my memory of 1975 to today is significant. I mean, it is an amazing change for the better, I might add.
所以呢，您就知道为什么呢？75年跟今天相比呢，我这么惊叹这个中国这么大的变化。但是我觉得还要加上一句，就是这个变化是朝更好的方向发展的。
I'll answer one more question, then I got to go have lunch with your president.
我只能再回答一个问题，然后我要跟你们的主席吃饭去了。
Man, yes, sir, in the blue.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. 谢谢您给我这个最后问您问题的机会。那么我以前有幸读过您的一本自传，在这个自传中呢，您提到美国社会现在也存在着一些社会问题，比如说校园暴力、青年犯罪、贫困儿童等等。那么据我所知呢，我们清华的一位校友去年在美国就学期间被无辜的枪杀了。那么据我所知，这样的暴力事件在美国现在社会还不断的发生，而且愈演愈烈。作为美国的总统，您对解决美国目前现今的人权状况作何打算呢？Thank you, Mr. President, to give me the last chance to ask you a question.
Thank you.
And I've read your autobiography, and in it you wrote about some social problems in the U.S. today, just like the violence in campus and the juvenile delinquency, and such as the children in poverty. And we know, as far as I know, a former schoolmate of our university, Tsinghua, and he studied in USA and was killed last year. And I feel so sad. And I know this kind of crime has become more and more serious in today's U.S. As the president, do you have any good plan to improve the human rights today in the U.S.?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I'm proud to report that violent crime actually is going down.
我直接要告诉你们的就是，现在暴力的这种犯罪率呢，在美国已经开始下降了。
But any crime is too much crime.
但是呢，只要有一起的犯罪案呢，就是犯罪太多的。
Anytime somebody is violent toward their neighbor, it's too much violence.
只要一个人对他的邻居呢会施行暴力，那 就是不能够接受的。
And there's no question we've got people living in poverty.
在美国的确有很多人还处在这个贫困当中。
But as I mentioned, our government is very generous in the amounts of money we spend trying to help people help themselves.
那美国政府呢花了很大笔的金钱呢来帮助这些处在贫困的人，希望他们以后能够自力更生。
When we all campaign for office, one of the big debates is how best to help people help themselves.
当我们竞选的时候呢，我们最大的一个讨论或是一个辩论的题目呢，就是如何帮助别人自力更生。
Foreign policy is an important part of our campaigns, of course, at least for president.
当然对这个美国总统来说呢，在选举的时候，当然外交问题也是一个重要的课题。
But the American voter really is more focused on domestic politics, what's happening at home, as you can imagine.
但是美国的选民呢，他们更注意的是国内的政治的局势，他们比较关注国内的问题。
If the economy is soft like ours is now, they want to know what's going to happen. What are you doing about the economy?
所以当一个经济呢出现疲软的时候，好像在美国目前的情形，他们就要知道，那你现在要怎么样来拯救经济？
If the economy is good, then they don't talk much about the economy.
如果经济情况好的话呢，他们根本不谈经济。
But always we talk about two key issues to address your problem. One is welfare. How do we structure a welfare system that helps people in need, and in my judgment, should not make them dependent upon their government.
那我们常常在竞选的时候，我们谈到两个主要的关键问题呢。第一个呢，就是我们的这个社会保障制度的这个结构问题，就是说我们如何来帮助美国的这些需要社会福利的人。我们帮助他们呢，有一个条件，就是不能让他们过度的或是长期的依赖政府。
And the other big issue is education.
另外一个主要的这个常常讨论的问题呢，就是教育。
It's always not only an important part of campaigns, but it's an important part of being once you're in office.
这些问题有时候这个问题有时候可能在竞选的时候不是那么重要，但是呢，你当选了以后呢，就非常的重要。
When I was the governor of Texas, I used to always say an educated child is one less likely to commit a crime.
当我还是当这个德克萨斯州的这个州长的时候，我常说一件事情，就是如果你能够给一个儿童非常好的教育，你就能够避免他以后出去犯罪。
As governor and now as president, I've spent a lot of time working with members of both political parties to develop an education plan that starts making sure children learn before they just get shuffled through the system.
那当了总统以后呢，我跟两党的这个议员们呢，我们就希望能够制定一个计划，就是帮助这个学龄前的儿童呢，能够有一个非常好的开始，还没到学校呢，他们就可以开始学习了。
One of the saddest facts about my country is that there are a significant number of fourth grade students who cannot read at grade level.
现在的美国呢，一个比较令人悲伤的一个事实呢，就是说现在在美国有一些4年级的小学生呢，他们没有办法达到他们那个年级的阅读能力。
Imagine a child who can't read in the fourth grade is a child that's not going to be able to read in the eighth grade. And if the child can't read in the eighth grade, it's likely that child's not going to be able to read sufficiently when they get out of high school, and therefore won't be able to go to college. It's a shame in America that that's the case.
那如果你想想4年级还不能阅读的话，那他到了初2的时候呢，他也更不能阅读了。然后他毕业了之后呢，他根本没有办法以后再继续的上大学了。那所以呢，如果这种情形继续的下去的话呢，对美国来说也是可以说是一个耻辱。
So as part of an education bill, I managed to get through Congress last year. We've got a significant reading initiative where we'll work with the states and the local jurisdictions to focus on an education program that emphasizes reading. This year I hope to work with my wife and others on an early childhood development program so the youngsters get the building blocks to learn how to read.
所以呢，在去年的时候，我就向国会呢呈上了这么一个议案。那 这个我们在国会中呢，经过了很多的这个讨论。那今年呢，我也是希望跟这个州一级还有地方政府一级的这些司法机关呢，立法机关呢，我希望我们能够就这个问题呢，继续推动这些抗议。那我想呢，我们的重点是放在教导和阅读方面。那今年我的夫人和我呢，还要继续的推动一个计划，就是学龄前的儿童能够得到教育。
I'm actually working my way to your question, I promise you.
我慢慢的会回答你的问题。
Because education is the best anti-crime program.
因为我觉得教育呢，就是反犯罪的一个最好的途径。
It's important to enforce law.
执法是非常重要的。
It's important to hold people accountable for their actions.
让人们呢因着自己的行为呢而受到惩罚，或是要负担起责任，这是重要的。
It is important to have consistent policy that says if you harm somebody, there will be a punishment for that harm.
但是呢，我们坚持我们的政策的一致也是非常重要的。也就是说，你如果犯罪了，你就必须受刑罚。
But in the best interest for my country, the long-term solution is to make sure the education system works for everybody. And when that happens, there'll be a more hopeful future for people, and there'll be less poverty, less hopelessness, and less crime. Listen, thank you for letting me come. God bless you all.
所以呢，最符合美国利益的呢，能够长期解决这个问题，就是让每个人都有